Hello everyone, my name is Brian and welcome back to another Hunter Hazard. Hunter Hazard, we are going to take a look at the hunters, how I like to build them, their abilities, etc, etc. So this time around we are going to take a look at Rama. Rama is pretty much a basic attack oriented hunter. He doesn't have an ability that deals damage on its own except for his ultimate, but I'll get back to that later. Also a thing to note about the builds really depend on item changes, what season you're at, how the hunters are changed in the course of time. It just varies a lot, so it may be changed when you see this video, but this is how I like to build it, this game for instance. I'll tell you my reasoning about it when I get to that later on. But let's first start off with Rama's passive. Above his portrait you can see 5 arrows and the number 5 indicating that I have 5 arrows. I use arrows on my 1 as well as on my 3. I will get back to that later how I use them with it. But these arrows regenerate over time. I will get 1 arrow every 12 seconds. And as well I reduce that 12 seconds by 2 seconds every time I hit an auto attack. So that way you can just do a lot more. Get a lot more arrows online. As you saw there, I activated my 1. You can toggle it on or off by just pressing 1. When you toggle it on, you will have an additional effects actually on your basic attack that will be augmented with that astral arrow. So every single basic attack when you activate your 1 will cost you an astral arrow, but you get a lot of things in addition. You will get additional damage, a little bit of additional damage. You can hit multiple targets with it, so it can pass through enemies, also pass through walls, so you can hit multiple targets with it, multiple damage ticks. The one that is hit first will be hit for the full damage of your basic, so that is the full 100% of your basic attack damage. Plus the additional damage from the 1, and any other targets that are hit afterwards will be hit for 75% of your maximum damage. So that is a good amount of damage as well, and you can hit multiple targets with it. You can hit an entire enemy team with it if they all line up properly. So you will consume an arrow every single time you use it. You can hit through walls. It will also slow enemies. It will slow them for 10% for 1 second. Will stack up to 30%, so you can get a really good amount of slow on someone if you use multiple astral arrows on them, slowing them for 30% for 1 second. So it isn't too long, but it's definitely a decent slow. You can't keep it on the enemy for extremely long time, but sometimes you really don't need it. With a good amount of basic and with a high damage build, you can burst them down very quickly. Also very interesting to note, when you use your basic, when your 1 is activated, your hitbox is a little bit wider than with a regular basic attack, so that is something to take into consideration. His second ability has an activated part as well as a passive part. His passive part is when you use a basic with that consumes an astral arrow, you have a chance to get that astral arrow back. You have a 10% chance at rank 1 of your 2, up to a 50% chance at the maximum of your 2. This will provide the astral arrow on the ground. It will drop. You can pick it up by walking over it, and it will drop at the first target hit. So if I use my 1 to clear an entire creep wave, there is a chance that there is an arrow dropped at the first target I hit on the ground. So that can be very powerful. So, the activated part about his 2, you will activate your 2, you will, ooh, this is a risky part, and ooh, they are able to pick me up. Okay, so the activated part, you've seen me use it a couple times already. You will get an attack speed buff when you activate your 2. The attack speed will be increased by 30% at rank 1, up to a maximum of 50% at the maximum rank of your 2. So that means that when you activate your 2, you'll have a very good amount of additional attack speed to just spray your enemy with arrows. His third ability is his only escape. Well, not his only escape, but his most used escape. It is a dash. You see me use it here. You will cover a small distance. It isn't very fast, but it is... well, it's pretty fast, but it's not very far. It is an interesting one. You can actually aim where you're going with your dash. So if you use your W key and then use your 3, you will go forward. But if you press your S key while you use your 3, you will actually go backwards. So that is very important part to note, that you can go both backward, forward. You can also go sideways. You can also go diagonal, so a bit forwards and a bit sideways or something like that. So there is an awful lot of use to it. Nice juggle by the tier, gets me out of that pool by the Mercury. We are able to pick him up quite easily. So I do have my escape. Jingwei coming from behind. I use my dash to cover some distance, but with the fact that you can choose where you go with your dash, you have the opportunity to kinda go for that surprise factor by going sideways or kind of diagonal backwards or something like that. It's a bit, you have your own choice where you go with that dash, so it can be very useful and very surprise factor for them. Also, when you use your 3, your next basic attack will consume an astral arrow, and you wonder why. Well, your next basic attack will deal additional damage. It deals more additional damage than with your 3, with your 1 activated, and it will also cripple the enemy. The cripple will last for 1 up to a maximum of 2 seconds, depending on the level of your third ability. And, well, also the cooldown on your 3 will be reduced when you level it up. The maximum cooldown on your 3 is 12 seconds at rank 1, and it will be reduced to a cooldown of 8 seconds on its final rank. So it is a very, well, a very powerful ability altogether, but it is not a huge dash. Mercury dash a bit longer, was able to catch up to me and finish me off. So this dash in that regard was a bit bad. So his fourth ability and his only damaging ability, you've seen me use it a couple of times. You will charge up a bit. In that charge up time you're CC immune. You will go up into the air. You'll get the opportunity to fire 3 bolts to your enemy. These bolts will deal damage. You will deal less damage with the first bolt, more damage with the second, and even more damage with the third. But each consecutive shot has a reduced radius on it, so that means that it is more difficult to hit, and also more difficult to hit multiple targets when you get that opportunity. I wait a bit, used my arrow, I crippled the Mercury, so he couldn't even dash even if he wanted to when he landed on the ground, because I waited a bit with that crippling shot to time that perfectly. And too much damage on the Jingwei, she's not able to get in her ultimate already. So, also important to note is when you go in the air, you have 5 seconds to do so, or you have the 3 shots you fire with your ultimate to really do what you have to do. But the important part about this is when you land down, they know where you are going to be. So if someone is waiting for you, like earlier that Bacchus was waiting for me, he knew I would be forced down after the 5 seconds or after the 3 shots. You can also just fire 3 shots and then wait for the 5 seconds to be done. But yeah, especially against, for instance, an Artemis. Artemis can lay a trap where you are in the air. When you land down, you'll be immediately trapped. So it is a very difficult, well, it is a very predictable ability, so that can be difficult to deal with sometimes. Okay, so back to, well, let's start with the abilities. The abilities, like I said, are not abilities. Come on, Brian, speak proper English. No, the build is very important, like I already said, and especially since he's a basic attacker, you need a good build with him. I usually go for attack speed, not attack speed, attack, the power boots, the warrior tabi for additional damage on your basic attacks. After that I go into Ikeval. It is early and cheap basic attack damage, because you get additional damage when you basic attack. You get cheap penetration, it's 10 penetration, so it's pretty decent. you will get attack speed, a lot of attack speed actually, and it's all very cheap. So definitely a good pickup, especially in the early game, to just get online. After that I go for chins. This allows you to deal damage to most of your targets with ease. Nice sanctuary from Jingwei, deters me from going for her. But like I said, chins very good against tankier as well as squishier targets. That percentage damage on HP is just very powerful altogether. After that, you can go for that, let's see, RC proc. I have the RC, and the RC proc is working out for me. I deal a huge amount of damage to Jingwei. Bit too risky to use his ultimate, so I'll just back off. I don't have any mana, don't have any escapes. Their team is rotating, and I think my team will be able to pick up the Jingwei. I'm not entirely sure if they will. It doesn't look like it. That is a bit unfortunate, but still force them back. So, RC very powerful, lifesteal very important as well. After that you can go for penetration. You usually go Titan's Bane if they have very tanky targets. This time it is not the case, so I'll just go for that hasten it. This gives me a bit more movement speed, a lot of mobility, because I can just move around and deal the basic attacks all together. So just an awful lot of attack speed and movability, just an insane amount. But I cannot chase up to the Mercury because of the tornado. So this has a lot of attack speed, actually an awful lot of attack speed. With the attack speed buff I have 2.27 attack speed. Those are the amount of basic attacks per second you can deal, so that is a lot. Ooh, I already was looking in the shop. Mercury actually dashes after me, kills me. Well played on his part. I didn't have anything up, so I couldn't really prevent it anyway, so not too much of an issue. So, I get the hasten it. This time I'm going for Titan's Bane as a finishing item. You can go for a more power build, especially on Rama. I usually don't do it, but it's definitely an option, because you don't need all the attack speed items I have, because I'm at 2.14 attack speed, and I also have an attack speed steroid for 50%. So that brings me up to well overcapped when I use my 2. And because of that, it is just an awful lot of well, use. And as you can see here, I use my dash, I hit the first shot on a Jingwei. It actually has a little ding sound that I hit that crippling shot, and I get the Quadron. That is an awful lot of damage. But like I said, crippling shot, crippling for 2 seconds. She couldn't get away when she knocked herself up because she was crippled by my arrow. You will hear that distinctive sound when you hit that cripple shot. So that is a very interesting one. Let's see, can I get the Merc? No, he's just barely out of range. There's a lot of range on your ultimate, but it was just barely not enough. Ooh, that is a crit. Okay, I'm not going to fight into that crit. That crit is just a bit too much. If she gets another crit, that will be my death. So, there's one thing I change up. Ichval is very good in the early game, but I like to switch it up for an Odysseus bow, or an oboe so to speak, in the later stages when I have enough gold. And that's just for the fact that the lightning is just very powerful altogether, especially when you have these grouped up team fights like you have in Arena, especially in the bonus round. It's just an awful lot of additional damage. And as you can see, with that hasten that I can just chase up to him. He did a basic because he was crippled, he couldn't leap away. So he doesn't have his stuff on instant cast, he has it on just click, or cast and click thingy. So I am at 2.41 attack speed with the attack speed buff. That is an awful lot of attack speed, a bit too much, because if I use my 2 at this point, it doesn't really provide any additional damage. Not an awful lot in anyway. It just warns the enemy that I really want to commit. So usually it's better to get rid of one of my attack speed items. If you could go for a Blood Forge instead of the RC, at this point you don't have the time to stack up, like for instance a Gauntlet. So you still have the lifesteal, but you can use your 2 for additional attack speed instead of not doing really anything. it is an option. There are an awful lot of builds you can go for. This is the build I went for this game. There are some other options, maybe some better options. It all depends. Ooh, can I use Magus in time? No! The Kukulkan ultimate comes out already and the Bacchus ultimate as well. Just a bit too much damage for me. I can't deal with it. Not in the good way, at least. I didn't have my beat, so it was an awful lot I could have done. I just wish my Sanctuary would have been in time to prevent the Kukulkan ultimate, then I might have survived. But that's all fine. So, you'll see some people build crit. You also see some people build throwing dagger or golden bow. Golden bow is really good for getting your what is called your, well, to get more wave clear, because you don't have an awful lot of wave clear on some guards, so you definitely want to get that Odysseus of that golden bow, I mean the golden bow, to help you with the wave clear. But in arena it's not as important, so I don't go for it ever in arena. You can go for it, for instance, in Conquest. It's actually quite common now in Conquest. You can also go for a crit build altogether. If I go for a crit build, I usually go for boots with an RC for that lifesteal. You go for kins just to help you in the early game. That really is very powerful altogether. The crit items I build are usually Deathbringer plus Malice. And with the Titan's Bane to round it out, get you that penetration you really need. So that build is very powerful in the later stages of the game. It's a bit more gold with the Deathbringer and the Malice, but it provides you a lot more burst. If you crit someone, you will basically reduce their health to about, well, if you crit once, I think you will hit for 40% of any squishy's health bar, guaranteed. As you can see, I used my Azure arrow through the wall and it was ultimate in the air. At this moment I knew it was over. She had used her Sanctuary already. So we were able to pick up that Jingwei. And that's the power of the Ram Azure arrow. You can hit through walls, which is definitely something that any other hunter doesn't have. Also, you can't body block when you fight against the Ram, because if he uses Azure arrows it will just shoot through you. I am in the middle. I don't like to be in the middle on the bonus rounds. I'll go and get to the side immediately with that side dash. Cripples the Fenrir. Fenrir uses his ultimate. I use my beats. I accidentally stepped into a Kukulkan tornado and I charged up my ultimate, but just barely not in time. The Bacchus ultimate came out with the Soul Reef proc and that was just enough to finish me off. I probably should have used my Aegis or not step into a Kukulkan tornado, but it doesn't matter too much. My team is here. 4 on 2, 4 on 1 now, and they will be able to pick him up rather easily. So all in all, it really worked out in our favor. I'm 15-6 in 17. That isn't a lot. I did an awful lot of damage. The kins or chins definitely did a huge work on them, as well as the fact that I could really stick to someone with the dash with my hasten it. As you can see, 46k damage, just an insane amount of damage. This is the build I went for. Probably would have been better if I swapped out one of the attack speed items for something with more damage, but it still worked out great. You don't need any additional mana in this game mode, so because you can back quite easily, but maybe in Assault you want, not in Assault, maybe in Conquest you want some additional mana, could be. There are some options you can go for. You can go for Transcendence. It's not too bad on ROM if you go for a crit build. It provides you additional mana, so it could be good. You can also go for Devour's Gauntlet. Devour's is also very good, but in Arena you don't really have the time or the resource to really stack it up. It's just way too late when it comes online, so I definitely don't recommend it in Arena. In Arena you want to get online very quickly. That's why I went for Ikeval for additional attack speed with the kins or chins for that additional burst. Into more attack speed with some lifesteal. Into more attack speed with extra mobility. Into some pen. Into some crazy lightning shit. So, I hope you guys learned something about Rama. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions, please let me know. If you have any requests what hunter to cover next, let me know as well. And as always, good luck, have fun, and I'll see you guys in the next one.